The 2021-2022 concert season marks the 70th anniversary of the Valley Symphony Orchestra. As the VSO looks towards the future of symphonic music in the Rio Grande Valley, we also look to our past and the stories and histories that have brought us to this moment. In this special commemorative podcast series, we'll hear from the musicians, community members, and organizational leaders who have not only helped build the VSO, but continue to nurture orchestral music in the Valley to this day. It's a story full of challenges met, hopes and dreams made real, and of course, beautiful music. So come along with us as we celebrate 70 years of the Valley Symphony Orchestra. In this first episode, we take a look at the men who've held the baton, the Maestros. The maestro, or conductor, is a role that has changed and developed greatly over the centuries. Today, the maestro helps shape the creative vision for each concert season by selecting which pieces will be performed and by which musicians. During the performance, they keep the orchestra moving as one. They're the pulse, the heartbeat. Throughout its 70-year history, the VSO has had 6 conductors. Between 1952 and 1972, they were Charles Magurian, Dr. Glenn Williams, Dr. John Anderson, and Dr. Thomas Greer. But today, we'll take a closer look at 2 maestros whose combined tenure with the VSO approach a half-century, Dr. Carl Seale and Dr. Peter Dabrowski.
My name is Jan Seale, and my connection with the VSO is that I was married to the conductor, Carl Seale, for 56 years before he died in 2014. We met in the band at Baylor. He was the drum major of the band, and I was a lowly little freshman and flute and piccolo player. We ate and slept and we went to concerts. That's about all we did all our lives. His family moved to La Feria when he was in junior high school from Fort Worth. His father intended to be a citrus farmer. That didn't work out. There was an immediate freeze and froze all 10 acres of his new lemon trees. But Carl went through high school, junior high and high school in La Feria, and his mentor was his band director. He finished his master's at the University of Louisville and I my bachelor's, so he wanted to come back to the Valley. This was in 1960. The Valley at that time was nationally known for its band programs in the high schools. So he wanted to be a band director in the Rio Grande Valley. But when he came back, there wasn't any opening for a band director. So the opening for the orchestra job came about in Edinburgh, and that was the only string program in the Valley. And I think there he got the bug for symphonic music.
Dr. Seale? A father figure, but he was also a wonderful teacher. My name is Marvin Eagle, and I was concertmaster for the VSO from the 80s through the 90s, and I've been with the VSO for over 35 years. He inspired us to really just love music. I was coming from a place that it was more rigid, but he helped to see the color, the beauty in playing the music and finding all those nuances that enhances the sound of the music. It was just an experience that still touches my heart to this day. He was a wonderful man, just a wonderful man.
He was extremely prolific. Actually, he was composing from high school on. It was a lifelong thing with him. So he did things for orchestra, a lot of things for instruments, but he liked to be challenged with many different things. In the late 70s, Carl was appointed to the Good Neighbor Commission, which was an international or binational commission that had been started in, I think, 1943. He took the symphony down to Mexico. We went on down to Saltillo, and the orchestra went wandering out on the plaza, main plaza there in front of the cathedral. And there was a man there selling little toys. They were styrofoam cups, and they had a string that came out of them. And if you pulled on this string, there was something inside the noisemaker, and it would cluck like a chicken. Well, all of the orchestra members had to buy these toy chickens. So all the way back from Saltillo, they were clucking these chickens. And sometime later, Carl said, "I have a surprise for you." He had done a composition called Concerto for Toy Chickens in Orchestra. And he appointed 2 people to play the solo parts of the toy chicken. People loved Carl for things like that. You know, this unexpected, twinkly sense of humor that he had.
Dr. Seale was composing pieces all along. My name is Ruth Cruz, and I have been affiliated with the Valley Symphony Orchestra and Chorale in one capacity or another from 1973 until the pandemic. There were many times that he would play one of his works at one of our season concerts, but he also brought the orchestra in to play works composed especially for civic events. For example, the McAllen Museum, when it first opened, the symphony played at the opening. So, you know, he was doing that kind of work that would recognize the growth of the Valley as well as the growth of the orchestra. And you know, he was very devoted to the Valley as well as to the symphony.
We will now take a moment to enjoy an excerpt from The Great River Suite, an original composition by Dr. Carl Seale, performed by the Valley Symphony Orchestra and narrated by Tito Torres.
We came to the river, to the great river where we stayed, where we are, where dreams are fulfilled, where challenges met. Each new coming brought change. Change to the land, change to the people. But the great river did not change. It flows yet like a great vein, carrying the liquid of life through our life. We revere the great river. We love it. We depend upon it. Its flow is the symbol of hope with which we came, the hope that by our coming, all here can know the good life beside the great river.
liked to garden, and he grew things in our backyard in McAllen, and he was conducting an opera. I think the opera started at 2:00, maybe in the afternoon, and then he came home. And we realized that there weren't too many places where you could conduct an opera at 2:00 and be planting onions at 4:00 in your garden. He did audition everyone, when they would come to town. And sometimes it was at the university in his office there, but sometimes it was easier to do it in McAllen at our house. And especially if someone came to town, say, had a music job in the public schools, they'd come over and audition. So our house was kind of a rambling, put together place, and we had little nooks around and everything. So I would sometimes be in the back, and so I'd hear this live sound, and it would be someone in the living room auditioning on their very best piece, And I can remember one day I heard the most ethereal, gorgeous violin sound coming from the living room. And it turned out to be Jeffrey Wong, who has been with us a long time as the concert master. And I will never forget hearing that sound from the back of the house where I was and being electrified by how professional it was, how good, how beautiful, how delicious the sound was. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's some years before. And it was remarkable that he went as long as he did with the disease creeping up as it did, but he felt pretty well, and I've always been glad that he could work and did as well as he did before he retired. He wouldn't have retired that soon had it not been for the Parkinson's.
A good symphony is a training the conductor gives to his players. And the sign of a good orchestra is the fact that they can carry on because they've had the leadership.
As the new millennium drew near, the baton was ready to be passed to the next generation. In his last performance as conductor, Dr. Carl Seale presented an original composition entitled A Symphony for Friends, A Farewell. The first movement is called Homage to Form.
So that was played in its entirety, as well as other things on the program. He picked out some favorite pieces and played them, but it was sad in a way, and yet he had worked very hard. He looked forward to the rest of not doing it, and also I'm not sure whether this was the last concert or close to the last one, but he introduced Dr. Dubrowski, and he had been influential in his being hired, and was glad about it, very glad about it. So it meant a lot to him that he felt he was passing the orchestra on to a really competent person that he had become acquainted with and had spent some time with, and realized the seriousness of Dr. Dabrowski's commitment to taking on a post like that.
I started to study music at age 7 in special school in Warsaw, Poland. My name is Peter Dabrowski. I'm a music director and conductor of the Valley Symphony Orchestra since 2001. I was very lucky because my father was a violinist with National Symphony Orchestra of Poland in Warsaw, and therefore from early childhood I was introduced to classical music, to the orchestral music. Later on I was studying piano, and I performed as a pianist. Conducting came a little bit later with more maturity on my part. I studied in Poland, I studied in United States, I work in Chicago, I work in Washington, D.C., and in 2001, when I found that there's this opportunity to conduct orchestra in the Rio Grande Valley, and as well to be a professor of music at the University in Edinburgh. Yeah, it took a while, but I ended up here.
My name is Suzanne MacDonald, and I am a board member currently with the VSO. I have also been a member of the chorale since its inception with the orchestra. And I was part of the board when Dr. Dabrowski was interviewed and selected to replace Dr. Carl Seale. The university went through a search committee, and the 3 finalists were scheduled to give a demonstration of what they could do by conducting the orchestra in a rehearsal. When the time came, the orchestra immediately improved under the baton of Dr. Dubrowski. It was amazing to see a young conductor with some very excellent skills who brought out the color and the passion and the force that was possible with the orchestra.
Each community is different, and definitely Rio Grande Valley is different than any other community I have been visiting or living. And for me, it was a discovery. It took time for me to find out different dynamics of this place. However, from the very beginning, I knew that I felt tremendous energy among musicians and everybody who was involved with the symphony. So that for me was really the most important. I was not familiar with the community, but the feel of this energy, the interest in continuing symphony music was something. I remember that feeling very well, and I'm very fond of this memory.
My name is Dr. Dalia Guevara. I think Peter is the kind of musician who appreciates folk music of the whole world, of many countries, and here in our campus and in our community, mariachi is very important. Peter just realized that this is a strong community engagement opportunity. There's been several wonderful performances with the Valley Symphony and Mariachi Aztlán.
We played a few years ago a very complex score of Stravinsky, The Rite of Spring. And that's one of the most complex scores for the symphony orchestra. And I was very proud to program that. The concert was balanced by music of John Williams from Harry Potter. It's a quite complex score by itself as well, but completely different. That's the beauty of music, that you can sort of program such a different things in one program and somehow connected them. No matter how difficult or complex is the piece, for me, it's only a matter of how piece is being delivered. It's either well played or badly played.
We did Star Wars, and it was a huge success. And we did Harry Potter, and it was a huge success. And then I'm hearing Dr. Dabrowski give a lecture for the audience explaining that today's where are the Beethovens today? Where are the Mozarts today? Well, it's Hans Zimmer. It's John Williams. It's the people who are composing for film. That's where the symphony composers are today. And so that music is worthy of being played by an orchestra.
We now invite you to enjoy a selection from the Valley Symphony Orchestra's 2019 concert season. The theme from the 1959 film Ben-Hur, written by Milkos Rosa and conducted by Dr. Peter Dubrowski.
You know, when you think of our concerts in 20 years that Peter has been with us, you know, he does a phenomenal job balancing the rich history of classical music with new modern music. My name is Michelle Crane, and I am the president this year for the Valley Symphony Orchestra. He naturally connects you with the history behind the music. And that's what I love about going to these concerts is you learn so much about the history behind both the composer and the music itself. No matter what age you are, when you attend a concert, you will leave very excited.
Yes, we've been here for 70 years. Nevertheless, we would like to connect more with a larger part of community. And new generations are growing. people from outside are moving in. So therefore, it's a continuous process. So yes, we are, I think, well established among the music lovers, concert goers, but we would like to obviously reach to more audiences and share releasing this magnificent music and to join other musicians to release this beauty.
We hope you'll join us on the next episode as we delve further into the history and inner workings of the Valley Symphony Orchestra. For more information about tickets and future concerts, please visit valleyorchestra.org. VSO Voices is a production of the Valley Symphony Orchestra. It was produced by Charlie Vella and Angelica Gualberto, and executive produced by Katie Coy. Special thanks to Marvin Eagle, Ruth Cruz, Dr. Peter Dabrowski, Susie MacDonald, Kurt Rome, Michelle Crane, Dr. Dalia Guevara, and Jan Seale. We close our episode today with a selection from Dvorak's New World Symphony. It was performed in 2010 as Dr. Peter Dabrowski celebrated his 10th anniversary as musical director and conductor for the Valley Symphony Orchestra.